All right, go ahead.
Okay, my name's Joe Spicer. I run Comics. We've been publishing for about 25 years. Um, we are 13, actually 14 now, members strong of indie creators. We have about 30 some titles that are ongoing. Um, and yeah, you can find us at starcrosscomics.com. We put out a lot of campaigns. We put out a lot of books, all creator owned. And yeah, that's Starcross. And again, I'm Joe Spicer.
Well, thank you, Joe. Y'all do y'all are the ones that do it on Newspress, right?
No, I think we tried it once. You may have gotten one from us at some point. We were trying it out when Alterna was offering
Mm,
that you could, they were saying, "Hey, if anybody wants to print through us, we're opening it up." And we took advantage of that just for one book, which was kind of like a multi-titled book that we were giving out at shows, and we could, because the price could be lower. But no, all
mhm.
our books are, high gloss, full color, you know standard or above standard
Yeah,
comics. Because sometimes, you get a Marvel book and you're like, what the remember when Marvel was doing that, where you touch it and your fingerprint would be left on the print? So we don't do that.
the problem I'm running into now is they're cutting the cover before they put the book together. So now the
Okay.
cover is just like an eighth of an inch shorter than the
Yeah.
guts.
Yeah.
And it happened for a couple months and then it'll stop. And
That's
then they'll
right.
go right back to it. I
I
don't
like to
know.
be able to I like to be able to flex and it all flips very nicely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't like those hard um, cardboard covers that DC is using now lately, where it springs and then it's just weird. It's
The
weird
card
to me.
stock.
Yeah, I don't like that. Some
Like,
people do like it, but I don't.
what's the name of the book that you have on Kickstarter right now?
For sure. So right now we got an Indiegogo campaign, and it's Biblical Proportions issue 2. Now I am launching a Kickstarter this week. It's done, ready to launch. You just got to go through that approval stage. So I'm gonna have Indiegogo is live right now, but the Kickstarter will launch this week, and probably you know next week I'll probably do a Fund My Comic too, just to get out. I just want everyone to get to see it. So if I'm not
Mm.
reaching certain people by being on Indiegogo, I'll be on Kickstarter. And it's not to get, not to double dip, but it's to say, well, there's some people only do Kickstarter. So I want to reach them. And so I want to reach everybody and just see, because then I'll just combine that whole thing to fund the next issue. So Biblical Proportions number 2 is the sequel to number 1, and this is it's an indie crossover event. So it's not only every character that's in the Starcross publishing universe, but it's also other indie companies that we're friends with. So, we got like Gun Ghoul from Alpha Dog, Will Callaghan's company. We got so many characters. I had to write them down because there's a huge list. But we got people from Apogee Comics. We got characters from um, Aspire Comics. We got characters from Arrow Comics. We got characters from, I mean, it goes on. All these different people that I'm friends with and that I respect their characters. So we just made this huge kind of like Infinity War, if you will, just big battle. And issue 1 sets up the what the heck's going on. Then it ends with like a cliffhanger. Issue 2, which is this one, then gets all the heroes together and they need to figure out, okay, what's the battle plan for this? And there's all these mysteries in the background that are happening, and the reader's like, what's that all about? These things do play out. So it's going to be 4 issues total. Um, Third issue is going to raise the stakes. Um, There'll be more danger, more characters that you wonder if they're going to survive because of what happens. And then it flips at the end of issue 3, and it turns into an even bigger apocalyptic situation going on. And then issue 4 is just like all hell breaking loose and all these characters just battling and trying to stop this gigantic multi dimensional threat that is, and then so that's the 4 issue arc, and right now this is issue 2. And if you like indie characters, there's going to be a character that you either already have their book, or it might inspire you to get that book from that character who's featured in the story because you think he's cool. I want to find out about his story. So I put ads in there so you can go, hey, if you like this character, go get his book, which is over here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm smiling so much
Yeah.
is because a few years ago I was
Yeah.
thinking that I was like, why in the hell has nobody done a Secret Wars for
Yeah.
indie books? Like
Exactly.
it would be able to take everybody's fan base and shove them together in just like
Exactly.
a
That's the
like a
kind of
comic
stuff I
book
like.
salad. You
That's
know?
why I started Starcross Comics. So there's all the creators that are in Starcross, which are many. I like trading books with other creators. It's kind of like, you know, we all cook together, we all make
Mhm.
our own dishes, and we all support each other. And then I've made friends who have their own companies, and I like their characters, and I have mutual respect. So I'm like, oh, it'd be cool, like, to just bring them in. So I'm like, okay, well, they're kind of in a different world. I'm gonna have to break dimensions. So the first issue, the villain character, he goes into this place called the Whirlpool, and he pulls this kind of cork, which is this mace that's from the center. It's called wormwood, and with that he shatters the dimensions. And so all these other heroes are drawn in, and they don't know what's going on. So heroes fight heroes a lot because they don't know, you know who's good, who's evil
Right.
right off the bat until they can pump the brakes and find out, hold on, what's going on? This is what's going on. What do we need to do to fix everything? And then there's battles on every other page. So
I
it's
like it.
really cool.
So are you writing the story alone, or the creators of said characters are there like, hey,
Mhm.
they would do this, they would do that, they act like this,
Right.
or
So issue 1 I wrote. The overarch theme of the plot of the story is mine, and then issue 2 and going forward to issue 4 is being written by Evan David, who writes The Black Blossom and Outed and all these other things that he's written. And he wrote for The Chosen, for their comic adaptation and all this stuff. And he's writing it going forward. And do I check with all the creators? Yes, because I don't do the thing where they take a character and they totally wreck them and people are like, oh, I hate it that they do that. I don't do that. So if I'm if I ask them if they want to participate, if they do, when we integrate their character in the storyline, I send them that page or pages and I say, check it out. And they use, 9 times out of 10, they go, oh, that's awesome. But if they were to say, oh, he wouldn't say that or he wouldn't do that, I would change it.
okay.
Or I've read their books, so I just kind of try to emulate what I've seen, how they act, what they say, what they do, and I try to make it the truest version of their character in the storyline. So I've never had a problem so far with the creators not liking something that their character is doing in the storyline.
Wait, is is the consequences of issue 4 going to ripple throughout the entire Star Cross universe?
So other than so some character, I mean, a lot of these characters are going to meet each other in the storyline.
Okay.
So if they ever run into each other again, yes, we have a Starcross team up, and in that I can team up with people in the Starcross universe or outside the Starcross universe with other companies. And one of our first issues, my character teams up with a character from another comic company, and he mentions the Biblical Proportions storyline.
Sweet.
So those things really happened. Will it have long term effects? I mean, you know, people will talk about it in the storylines, or they'll be like, hey, when this happened, or hey, let's not do that again, or hey, you're that guy from,
Right.
or other things might come into play. Like there's this cosmic bar that they go to in the second issue. It's not a spoiler because I have it on the campaign, and all the heroes are at this bar, and this bar is in between dimensions, so it fluctuates, so it's a safe area. Someone might reappear, or they might go, hey, I remember this. So these situations really happen, but I don't think when these characters go back to their normal storylines, it's not going to affect their storylines particularly.
Okay.
So
Okay.
their storylines will continue to go, but it'll just be one of their many adventures that they did to save the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to new creators out there?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So I work with a lot of brand new creators. So I get emails of people saying, "Hey, I got this story. I'm interested. Are you interested in publishing it?" And usually we go off of three things at Starcross that I developed is the creator. What is their personality like? What are they like working with? Um, their is their quality up to the standards that we
Mhm.
have all of our other books? And then the would be like, what is the theme, like what is the storyline? Is it something I'm comfortable with? Is it something that I would not want to talk to you about and be
Right.
excited about? So if so and so had it, they might be a great artist writer, they might be a really nice guy, but their story I don't feel comfortable talking to you about. Well, then I wouldn't put it out. Or let's just say, you know, I really like their storyline. I really love their art and writing, but the creator is just arrogant or really argumentative. And I'm like, this is going to be a nightmare on the pathway to publishing, and even going forward on next issues is just going to be difficult to work with.
Mm.
So I try to match these things. So that's from my end as publisher. But then as a creator, I would say, um it's a lot of work. So you have time, you got to neglect your family. You have your job that you got to, like, you're stressed out at work, then you're stressed out at
Wow.
home working on a book, then you're trying to get it done on a certain time. Then if you do a campaign, you got to manage that, and then you got to do interviews, and then you got to fulfill them on time, and then you got to deal with your printer, and then you got to manage the money. And you go, I just wanted to draw a comic.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that's not for the indies. That's for, if you work at Marvel or DC, then you can be just the artist. And those guys, they go, I don't know, I just draw what they tell me to. But if you're doing your own book, you got to do marketing. You got to, if you're at a convention and you don't like talking to people, you're not going to sell any books. And if you try to make deals, you could get screwed over. You can get screwed over if you're hiring artists. They could draw half your book and then just ghost on you. So there's so many things that you have to be willing to combat. That when you get hit by these things while on your pathway to just wanting to make a comic, you have to be willing to go, that's okay, I'm still going to get back up. And then you get hit by something else, and you get up and you keep going because you're like, I'm finishing this book no matter what. And you have to just understand, it's not just going to be easy riding. You're not just going to be on this cakewalk. I mean, even if you get funded, you still got to fulfill, you still got to do conventions, you still got to be public and be a marketing person, and you might have spelling errors because you didn't have an editor, and there's all these things, and you got to be willing to say, I'll take on all of these challenges, and I'm not going to have this false imagination where just because I'm working on a comic, I'm going to be carried around on a throne, and
Right.
everyone's going to take care of everything and throw money at me, because it's like a lot of hard work on so many different levels. And you might not think about that. You might be a really good artist and have some cool ideas for the story. And that's great, because without that, you got nothing.
Mhm.
But there's so much more. And these other companies have whole teams that are just marketing and just promotion and just printer, and you don't have to worry about that. But if
Okay.
you're an indie guy, you got to do it all yourself.
So, what social medias are you on?
So I'm on Facebook. Joe Spicer, Starcross Comics is on Facebook. Also, same thing on Instagram. Um, let's see, starcrosscomics.com. We're on Twitter, Starcross Comics. And yeah, that's the main thing. Um, the again, the campaign is Biblical Proportions #2 on Indiegogo, but later this week I will be doing the Kickstarter as well. And I just want to support all these indie creators. By making this project and including people that I formed good relationships with and that I respect their hard work. But yeah, there's so many cool characters in this book that if you like indies at all, there's a really good chance that you have some of these characters' books.
So, after you run all of the campaigns, do you take
Yeah,
all the different numbers, put it together, then go to the printer?
yeah. So that is what I usually do. I'll print ahead of time too. Usually our project's done. So I know
Right.
there's people who you're like, is the project even done? Ours are usually done, and then we're just kind of like paying ourselves on the backside.
I got you.
We already
Yeah.
paid for everything ahead of time, and now we're trying to recoup. But yeah, I'm actually looking into a fulfiller. I might just fulfill this one myself. It depends on how high it gets, but I have somebody who a company that'll fulfill for me. Um, but I haven't used them yet. That that's just if I need to. But otherwise, I usually fulfill it myself. As soon as it ends, um, I already have some of the books, but I'll probably do another run to fulfill the campaign. They usually come the same week I order them, and whether they come to me that I'm fulfilling them or the other company that I may use, yeah, I just start sending them out. So there's no wait. Some people you'd be waiting for like months, and you're like, oh, I forgot I even ordered that, and you're like, what are they doing? I think they're like, I don't know, editing them or lettering them or something. But like our stuff's done. This book's done. I already printed copies for myself, so I could see how it looked. Um, so that's something you don't have to wait. It's all done. We just
Is,
start shipping them out.
is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, check out the campaign, Biblical Portions #2. Um, hope to do issue 3 and 4. That'll complete that storyline. You can check out all the characters' books in the Starcross universe at
Mhm.
starcrosscomics.com.
All right, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come talk with me.
All right. Thank you so much.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comic Chat Authority? Oh, come on, subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.